I don't do the animations, but I am going to read some Enid Blyton. The Adventures of Binkle and Flip by Enid Blyton. Chapter 1. Sweeeep! Is there any food in the cupboard, Binkle? Asked Flip, opening one eye and looking at Binkle, who was dressing. No, there isn't, and you know that very well, snapped Binkle, who was in a very bad temper. You just jump out of bed, you lazy thing. We've got to work today if we want any food to eat. Oh, groaned Flip, I do hate work. Whatever can we do, Binkle? We must think, said Binkle. Hark, who's that outside? He went to the window and looked out. Brock Badger the Sweeeep was outside, carrying his poles and brushes over his shoulder. Sweeeep! Sweeeep! He called in his deep, husky voice. Then he caught sight of Binkle at the window. Chimney sweep, Binkle? He asked. No, answered Binkle, and Brock went off crying, Sweeeep! Again over Bumblebee Common. Binkle watched him. Flip, he said. Come here. Flip came over to the window. See old Brock, said Binkle. He gets a good lot of money by sweeping chimneys, and there's nothing much to it. Just fix your poles together, swish the brush up the chimney, and there you are. Sounds nice and easy, said Flip, watching Brock Badger knock at Slippy Stoat's door in Briarbank. It is easy, said Binkle, and what's more, we'll do it, Flip. We'll borrow Brock's poles and brushes and go off to Bracken Hill town away yonder and sweep all the chimneys we can. My, we'll come back with our pockets full of money. But how can we get Brock to lend us his brushes? Asked Flip doubtfully. Nobody round here trusts us much, you know. Wait and see, answered Binkle cheerfully. Come on. There goes Brock over the common. Let's catch him up. The two rabbits scurried down the stairs and ran over the common. They couldn't see which way Brock had gone, so Flip went down Heather Path and Binkle ran down Hazel Road. After a bit, Binkle smelt smoke. He peeped round a tree and found Brock Badger cooking his breakfast. Oh, it smelt very good. Binkle watched Brock with his bright eyes and wondered how could he get him to lend him those poles and brushes. Brock finished his breakfast, kicked out the fire and lit his pipe. He leaned back against the tree and smoked hard. Gradually his eyes closed, his pipe fell from his mouth, and he began to snore loudly. Binkle grinned. He knew just how he was going to borrow those brushes after all. He stole around the tree, picked up Brock's bundle, slung it over his shoulder and ran off chuckling. My, said Flip, meeting him at the bend in Hazel Road. How on earth did you get Brock to lend you his things, Binkle? Oh, he didn't say no, and he didn't say yes, chuckled Binkle. So I just took them. He was sound asleep, Flip. Well, we'll have to give them back when we're finished with them, said Flip nervously. We don't want Winnie Weasel, the policeman, after us, you know. Oh, stuff and nonsense, laughed Binkle. Come on. We'll make a lot of money today in Bracken Hill town, Flip. We'll give Brock a fine dinner for lending us his brushes when he comes back. Off the two went, and after a long walk arrived at Bracken Hill town. Sweeeep, shouted Binkle. Sweeeep. Here, Flip, I can't shout and carry these things. You carry them and I'll shout properly. Flip took them grumbling, and Binkle began to shout in the most tremendous voice. Sweeeep, sweep! 22 chimneys swept yesterday. What do you think of that, folks? Sweep! Finest sweeps in the world. Sweep! Binkle, we'll get into trouble if we say the finest sweeps in the world, began Flip hurriedly. Everyone will know that we're not. Be quiet, Flip. How are they going to know? And anyhow, we might be the finest sweeps out. You can't tell until you've tried. And Binkle said that in a fierce whisper. Flip said no more, but followed Binkle carrying the poles and very much hoping that nobody's chimneys needed sweeping that morning. He felt extremely nervous about it. Bushy Squirrel knocked at her window pane. Binkle looked up and pulled his cap off politely. "Sweep your chimney, ma'am," he called. "Oh, yes," said Bushy. It's been smoking terribly this morning. You've come along in time, but don't make more mess than you can help, will you?" Binkle and Flip went into the little house. It only had one chimney, so they couldn't make any mistakes about sweeping the right one. Binkle began fixing the poles together and pushed the first one up the chimney. The brush fixed well on. Suddenly, the brush reached something hard and wouldn't go any further. Binkle pushed and he pushed, but it was no good. He pulled down the brush and put his head up the chimney to look. Then he reached his paw up and tried to feel what it was. It was a brick falling down, blocking up the chimney so that the smoke couldn't go up properly. Binkle twisted the brick about until he got it loose enough, and then, turning it sideways up, he neatly lifted it down the chimney. "Say, Flip," he whispered, "this chimney doesn't need sweeping. This brick stopped it up." "Oh, shall we go and tell the squirrel?" said Flip, jumping up. "Ha, rather not," said Binkle scornfully. "Pack up the poles and brushes and leave this to me, Flip." Whilst Flip was busy tidying up the bundle, Binkle got paper and wood and laid a fire and he lit it. And when it was crackling merrily with the blue smoke going up the chimney, he called Bushy Squirrel. She came running in. "Have you finished already?" she asked in surprise. "Oh, your chimney is perfectly all right now," said Binkle, waving his hand towards the crackling fire. "See, we have lit fire for you to show that the chimney doesn't make smoke, and we haven't made a mess of your room at all, have we?" "Well, well, well," marvelled Bushy, holding her paws up in astonishment. "Not a mite of soot anywhere, and also quickly done too. You certainly are marvellous sweeps." Just then someone went by the window. Bushy ran to it and leaned out. "Mary Mole," she called. "Mary Mole, just come in here a minute and see what I've had done." Mary Mole came waddling in and was delighted to see how wonderfully clean the sweep had kept her room. "My bedroom chimney badly needs sweeping," she said. "Could you come and do it now? I was going to let Brock the badger do it, but he's not as clean and not quite as quick as you." "Certainly, ma'am," answered Binkle, shouldering his poles. "We'll come now. We'll charge 2p, please, for sweeping chimneys." He said this, turning round to Bushy Squirrel. Very cheap," said Bushy, feeling for her purse. Binkle wished he had said 6p, for it was too late to change now. Then Flip and Binkle followed Mary Mole to her house in the middle of the village. She took him up to a little blue and white bedroom. "Here you are," she said. "I'm glad I heard of you. Brock Badger makes such a dreadful mess, though he does try hard not to. I have to cover everything in the room up with sheets when he comes." She left the room and went down the stairs. Flip began fixing the poles together and Binkle sat in the chair and watched him. "Up the chimney she goes," he said. "It's nice to see you doing some work, Flip. Push hard." The chimney was small and the brush Flip had fitted on was very big. He pushed and suddenly it gave and slipped up the chimney with a rush, quite overbalancing Flip. At the same moment, a great cloud of soot fell down into the hearth and completely covered him. It flew all over the white room and settled everywhere. Binkle leapt up and began to choke and cough. "Oh, you stupid!" he cried angrily. "That's not the way to sweep a chimney." "Well, you should have swept it yourself then," choked Flip, trying to wipe himself clean, but making himself blacker still. "Let's find the bathroom," said Binkle. "We can't go out like this. No one will give us work." They went into the bathroom nearby and turned on the taps, but instead of making themselves clean, they made the bathroom terribly dirty. The bath was streaked with black and the floor was covered with soot. When they dried themselves, the towels looked terrible, with great black marks and smudges. "Binkle," said Flip, looking at the towel in dismay. "Whatever will Mary Mole say? She will be angry with us." "This all comes from trying to sweep a chimney," scolded Binkle. "Next time, I'm going to do it. Look here, we'd better slip out of the house quietly when Mary Mole isn't looking." The two scamps tiptoed out of the bathroom, wrapped up their bundle of poles, and leaned over the banisters to see if Mary Mole was anywhere about. "Listen. She's ironing in the kitchen," said Binkle. "We can slip out of the front door without being seen." So the two rabbits crept down the stairs and slipped out of the front door as quietly as they could. Thud, thud went Mary's iron, and they heard her humming a little song. Poor Mary! Whatever would she say when she went upstairs? Binkle and Flip went down the road extremely quietly, not daring to call out "Sweeeep," until they were well out of Mary's hearing. When they had turned two corners and were well into the old part of Brackenhill town, they felt safer. "Big houses here," said Binkle, glancing around. "We could get quite a lot of swimlings to sweep, I expect. Sweeeep! Sweeeep!" A little servant's mouse came running out of a big house and beckoned to them. "Hi, hi," she called. "Sweep, sweep." Binkle and Flip went up to her. "Oh," she said in disappointment, "I thought you were Brock Badger the Sweep. He was supposed to be coming to the house this morning to sweep the chimneys, and he hasn't come." "Can't we do them instead?" asked Binkle politely. "I saw Brock fast asleep in Hazel Road this morning, so I expect he's forgotten." At that moment, the mistress of the house, Binny Badger, came out. "Where's my cousin Brock?" she asked. "I always let him sweep the chimneys because he's my cousin still. Perhaps you'd better come in and do it. If Brock can't remember, he must go without the job. Come along." She led the way indoors. Flip and Binkle followed, grinning to each other. Binny took them to a big drawing room. Dust sheets covered the furniture and everything was ready for the sweep. She left them there and they began to unpack the poles and brushes once more. "I'm going to sweep the chimney this time," said Binkle firmly. "We can't have an awful mess like last time now, can we?" "All right," said Flip. "I'm sure I don't want to sweep. It's a nasty, dirty job." He sat down on the chair to watch Binkle. Binkle was very busy. Up the chimney went the brush and the pole, and pole after pole was fitted neatly on. Soon there were very few poles left. "I wonder if the brush has reached the top of the chimney yet," said Binkle suddenly with a sigh. "Oh, it's jolly hard work pushing, and it gets heavier each time I add another pole on. How do you tell when the brush has reached the top, do you suppose, Flip?" "Oh, I don't know," said Flip. Perhaps if I went outside and looked, I could see if the brush was sticking out of the chimney." "Oh, no, you mustn't do that," said Binkle. "Bushy Squirrel might happen to come along and see you, and then we should get into a row." He fixed another pole on and pushed. "Oh, dear," he sighed. "I wonder if it's at the top yet. It would look so silly if the brush was just sticking out far into the air. Wouldn't it, Flip?" Then Flip had an idea. "Can't I go up on the roof and see? I expect there's a skylight up in the attic somewhere, and I can squeeze through." "That's a fine idea," said Binkle, very pleased. "Go up now, Flip." So Flip made his way upstairs and soon came to a little attic. In the ceiling was a slanting skylight. Flip put a chair underneath, stood on it and opened the skylight, and then climbed through it, and there he was on the roof. "Goodness," said Flip, holding on to a chimney nearby. "What a lot of them. Now, I wonder which chimney Binkle is sweeping." He looked carefully all round. None of the chimneys seemed to have a brush sticking out. "That's a funny thing," said Flip. "I suppose Binkle's not made the brush long enough yet. Well, I'll sit down and wait till the brush comes out, I suppose, and then I'll go down and tell him." He sat down down the chimney and waited. It was very dull, and soon he stopped watching the chimneys altogether and looked away over the country. There was a hill in the distance, and someone was running quickly down it in the direction of Brackenhill town. That person's in a hurry, said Flip, watching him. Wonder who he is. Flip wouldn't have stayed quietly on the roof if he had known who it was. It was Brock Badger hurrying to his cousin Binny's house to explain how it was that he hadn't been to sweep the chimneys as he had promised. Brock Badger hurried down the street and at last reached Binny's big house. He went in at the back way and found Binny in her kitchen helping her little servant Mouse do some washing. "Well, Brock Badger," she exclaimed, "this is a fine time of day to choose to come. Wait until I've put this pan of water on to boil and I'll hear what you have to say." She and the little mouse put the heavy pan of water onto the fire. Then Binny turned to Brock. "My brushes were stolen," he said. "That's why I couldn't come, but I'll do your chimneys as soon as I get them back, Binny." "It's too late," said Binny. "I've got 2 sweeps in there now doing them. They're in the drawing room." Binkle was certainly in the drawing room, still fitting on the poles, but Flip was where we left him up on the roof. He had become very tired of waiting for the brush to appear. I'll just peep down 1 or 2 chimneys and see if I can see it anyway," he decided. The chimneys were so tall he had to climb up them before he could look down. He had just climbed up to look down a pair of chimneys when something dreadful happened. The brush suddenly jerked out of one and he overbalanced himself and he went head foremost down the one he was looking into. Poor Flip. Down the chimney he went into the sooty darkness trying to catch at something to stop himself, but he couldn't, and then splash. He had fallen straight into the pan of water that Binny had put on the kitchen fire. Splatter, splatter, what a to-do there was. Binny and the little mouse shrieked and ran behind the door. Brock jumped up in amazement and hauled the poor choking Flip out of the pan. "What do you mean by this?" he demanded sternly. "You're paid to sweep chimneys, not to fall down them like that." Flip blinked his eyes open and saw Brock. "Oh, oh," he cried, thinking that Brock had found out that he and Binkle had stolen his brushes. "Oh, forgive us, Brock. We didn't mean to take your brushes." "Oh, ho," said Brock, taking hold of Flip by the scruff of his neck. "So it was you 2, was it? Where's Binkle? In the drawing room, I suppose." Now, Binkle had heard this to do in the kitchen, and creeping out, he had seen poor Flip captured. He knew he would get caught next, so he was determined to run whilst he still had the chance. He raced out of the front door, straight into the arms of Willy Weasel the policeman. Mary Mole was with him. When she found out what a dreadful mess the 2 sweeps had left in her house, she went straight to Willy and told him. He promised to find the scamps for her, and just as they were walking down the road, making inquiries, Mary had seen the brush sticking out of Binny's chimney pot. And so she and Willy rushed up to the front door, just in time to catch Binkle. The 2 bad rabbits cried and said they were terribly sorry, but Willy said he knew their wicked ways and took them off to lock them up. He gave them a good spanking and made them clean Mary Mole's house from top to bottom. Then he gave them another spanking, just for luck, and sent them off. "We will be good now," said Flip sorrowfully. Yes, till the next time." "You're naughty," said Willy Weasel with a grunt. And he was just about right.